Welcome, everyone, to Boston 9/11 Truth. Today is February 6th, 2025, and today we have a special guest, Nelson Martins. Nelson, also known as DJ Thermal Detonator. He's former California Gothic and industrial music club promoter and live entertainment booker. He first became indoctrinated into 9/11 truth after having first watched Loose Change in 2007, as well as a myriad of other alternative September 11th quote unquote conspiracy films. But much of his views and positions on 9/11 truth have immensely changed over the past years. In 2008, he joined We Are Change Los Angeles as a regular member and outspoken street activist during his short-lived endeavor of creating and printing his line of 9/11 truth shirts. Nelson started his first YouTube channel in 2011, which was first named after it, Truther Shirts TV, where he would host a variety of conspiracy and alternative history films. After 2012, he changed his channel title simply to Truther TV, where he began dabbling in video editing and eventually producing his own documentary films with such titles as An Inconvenient 9/11 Truth, which I think many of our members here are familiar with. By 2016, with the advice of a fellow activist, to better enhance his film writing capacities, he started his WordPress blog, 9/11 Skeptics. And lost my place.
It's all right.
And anyway, welcome, Nelson Martins, to Boston 9/11 Truth. And before we begin, I just want to go over our guidelines a little bit. We ask all our participants to mute themselves during Nelson's presentation, and once the presentation is completed, then we will have a Q&A. During the Q&A, no personal attacks are allowed. Everybody is expected to use polite decorum and be respectful of all participants, including our guests. So with that being said, I think that pretty much says it. And also the Q&A should be on topic only. What Nelson has addressed in his talk to us. We're not going to go down any other rabbit holes during this particular Zoom. And just fair warning, anyone who does not abide by these guidelines, I'll have to, give them warning, and if they still don't abide, then they will be kicked off the Zoom. All right.
Is this a new rule?
What?
Is that a new rule about not being able to ask anything that's not part of the presentation? I haven't heard you say that before.
It's been in our guidelines that we post every time we make an announcement.
Okay.
Emails. Yes. And so far, since we put the guidelines together, it has been abided by. Of course, after we stop recording and have the agenda items, then it's open.
Okay.
All right. Is that clear?
Yep.
Any questions on the guidelines? Any other questions? Okay. Welcome, Nelson.
Hi.
We're really happy you reached out to us, and very much looking forward to this discussion.
Yes, I have to thank Joshua Schoenfeld for kind of arranging this. He was his idea to speak to this group, and initially, I figured, well, I've always wanted to reach out to particularly to the Boston group, and I know not everybody here is actually from the Boston group. There's a lot of people from everywhere else, but was basically to reach out with my film, Inside Job, Boston Logan 9/11. And I'm going to keep this kind of short because I don't really have an actual presentation. I'm not going to show you guys films. I don't have slides or nothing like that. I'm just hopeful that you guys have had a chance to watch it, because Susan did post it in the email links already. And basically, it's a film I made 3 years ago, and it was a film that kind of transpired from other films I started working on because I moved past just focusing on everything on New York and was already dabbling with the Pentagon attack and Dulles Airport mainly, mostly because a lot of things I started puzzling I got from other researchers, little clues, and started assembling to them together and writing them into blogs. And I started to discover that, well, despite that, there is a large belief that absolves the hijackers, or they don't believe. There's a lot of people in the truth movement don't believe that we're hijackers. They believe that that part of the story is a hoax. Despite that, they give an official story on the number, with 19 hijackers and 4 planes, I started realizing or putting things together and realizing that that's not even accurate itself. Even if you were going to just uh, look into the hijackers or just believe that there were hijackers, the whole official story. I started realizing that they didn't get the identities of all the hijackers accurately, and there's countless reasons why. And I mean, there's definitely obviously cover-ups. We've seen lots of them in many areas in September 11th. I imagine, everybody here is, familiar with. And well, I started with the Dulles Airport, and my thing that I discovered is that there wasn't 5 hijackers involved. There was likely 6 and maybe even more, but I just leave it at a number of 6. And because of that airport, the security videos have been released, and there are anomalies with them, and a lot things that were basically bypassed and people didn't notice, especially in 2004 when they were released. For myself, I wasn't even in the 9/11 truth movement back then, so I wasn't really keeping up with stuff at all. I didn't, like she said in the presentation, I started getting involved into, getting familiar with this stuff, in 2007. I watched Loose Chains, a Zeitgeist, Alex Jones films. I used to listen to him a lot. And you know, and I find that a lot of things are wrong. There are some things that they bring up issues, with the Twin Towers, which is, that's obviously I agree with. But with the everything else being an elaborate hoax was just over the years I've just discovered that it was just wrong, and for a lot of reasons. But uh back to what I was saying with Flight 77, with Dulles Airport. I discovered that, and then, my big film that I started to do afterwards was to uncover that there were more planes targeted. And I did that with a very expansive film back in 2020. It was a continuation of other work that I'd done previous, and it's basically themed off of the Bojinka plot, which the Bojinka plot was this plot plan found on Ramzi Yousef's laptop. Ramzi Yousef was he's alleged to be the mastermind of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. But when he fled and when he was fugitive, he was basically, it's a long story, but the plan was on his laptop, and he fled. He was in the Philippines already planning other terrorist acts and stuff. Already put a bomb on a Japanese airliner from the Philippines, but his apartment caught on fire, and he fled. And the Philippines authorities ended up finding the laptop, and then they discovered this plan. It's called the Bajinka plot, which is a plot to target 12 planes with bombs and also other like following like other basically an expansion of the plan where it would actually be hijackings too. And they were targeting planes basically in the Pacific Islands, but the West Coast was being targeted as well, mostly like JFK Airport, LAX, other spots, and it was already bringing up the same targets again: the World Trade Center, Pentagon headquarters, Pentagon CIA headquarters, Sears Tower, all that stuff. Well, I picked up a tip uh, regarding I'd seen one news clip. I couldn't figure it out. I won't mention the name of the documentary, but it's shown a news clip that I thought was from September 11th, and it was a report of people being arrested for with weapons at JFK and LaGuardia Airport. What was that? Oh, I'm sorry. That's somebody. Oh, who's bought that? X that up. Um, and I thought it was from September 11th, and I found out it was from September 13th, 2 days after 9/11, just as the airports had reopened. And the report was that 10 people were arrested between these two airports. They had knives, guns, other things, and I basically from that tip I started to I started to go into the television news archives, the from archive.org. It's called 9/11 News. I forget the whole title of it. It has pretty much all of the news broadcasts from all the major networks, and it's displayed very well, and it's got all 7 days after 9/11. And I went through all of it. Took me years to go. Took me years to finally complete it all. Um, but I discovered that this report had happened, that this had happened 2 days after 9/11, and that there were other airports shut down again when they had reopened, like also Newark Airport was reclosed again. And lo and behold, I started to realize that, well, with these additional hijacking attempts, these were attempts that were about to go on September 11th. And I made this film, and it's called Bojinka Maximum, and it is 6 hours long. Now, I know a lot of people won't put the effort to watch something like that because it's just too long. Well, a lot of that film is mostly just news reports, at least the first half, within the first 3 hours, just on a timeline as they were reporting everything, just so that people can see and hear the difference between the different news reportings from the different news outlets on how they were incrementally different and how the number of conspirators were growing. And I let the time, and the news networks tell that's part of the story. But with that part, I basically started to find the other stories about the other attempted hijackings or reports of a lot of suspicious things found on other flights and suspicious suspects that were on certain flights. And I started to put that together as one film. So I was covering basically 9/11 and 9/13, and that's part of the title of that film. Well, in that film, I also brought up um, several other flights that were targeted at Boston Logan Airport. And from that point, I knew from 2020 when I put this film out, I knew that I needed to finally just do a film really just on Boston Logan, because not only do I need to address these extra flights targeted, I need to address the anomalies with the two main flights, the two that hit the World Trade Center. This is where the supposed attack initiates from. And there's a lot of strange questions. There's a lot of inconsistencies. The big thing about it is that, well, there's no security cameras from Boston Logan Airport. We don't know what the hell happened there. and we don't have a legitimate answer to that. And basically, I started to realize a lot of other things from other documents that I'd read, from investigations, and started to realize that um, the reason why we likely do not have security video from there is because some of the hijackers didn't actually board the plane through the passenger security lounges. Some of them, possibly Muhammad Atta. There might have been two Muhammad Attas. I don't know. There is a possibility. That could be ferreted in there too. There may have been a double that showed up, but whoever was posing as Muhammad Atta, and likely even Marwan Al Shehi for Flight 175, they were disguised as airline pilots. And this basically means is that some of these operatives were able to work within the airport, basically going around the airport security perimeter. There was basically, is basically infiltrated, and it had been for a long time. There had been numerous problems with Boston Logan Airport regarding security matters. There were, some of the airlines were charged with penalties, high penalties for, they'd have certain agents try to sneak in, weapons and all that kinds of stuff, and they actually got away with it, and then they get penalized. So Logan had that problem for a long time. And so with this film that I did was Boston Logan 9/11. I'm sorry, Inside Job Boston Logan 9/11. I decided to put that together because, some of the other things besides the anomalies with the hijackers, like I'm not necessarily convinced that there were 5 hijackers entirely on each of those planes. There may have been more on 7, and there may have only been, 4 on Flight 11. And I get into that. That's covered in my film and stuff too. But one of the most intriguing things about it is that, well, with what I've uncovered, especially with news reports, the flight paths from Flight 11 and Flight 175 indicate that the planes were immediately taken over, just as I already alluded to with them dressed up as airline pilots. They were already taken over at the point of departure. They never flew, at one point, they never flew the actual commercial aviation route that they were supposed to fly. They were supposed to go up into New Hampshire and go across into the upstate New York. It went straight through Massachusetts. And they obviously, at one point, they obviously cross at one point further out into in New York. But with that, basically, the thing about that is that, yeah, so basically we're being lied to as far as like how that had happened when the hijackings took over. We don't have all the information from the phone calls. There's still like 15 minutes cut out from Betty Ong, the flights to the stewardess of Flight 11. So we don't even hear the entire recordings of that. And basically with that, there's the question is that the attacks seem to be initiated from Boston Logan, but there's also another problem is that, well, if they were just destined to hit the Twin Towers, well, why would they go out of state and go into New York and then into New Jersey and into Pennsylvania, then come back up around? They didn't fly straight to Manhattan. So they were buying time for some reason. And I also believe that really, like, JFK Airport was one of the other main airports that was going to be targeted with other flights. I'm sure if you guys probably have heard by now, there's been, since 2 years ago, what's the name of that program? They put out the 5th plane with Flight 23. And I've also done other research. I've talked to another stewardess who was on another flight that flew out of JFK on 9/11, and I wrote this whole article out. I could have included this in the new email, but she believed that her plane was targeted too from the passengers that were on her plane, and she was not even aware of like all of the 9/11 truth culture or any of that stuff. And I informed her about a lot of that stuff. And well, sorry, I'm just going off from Boston Logan Airport. But that's kind of that's kind of one of my general premises is that yes, I tend to believe that's what was the initial airport they were really going to strike. Just like with the Pentagon, with Dulles Airport, it turned around and went back into DC. It would only make sense that the original plans were to take off from the actual airports and turn around and target where they were, in the area vicinity that they had taken off from. Because even with Flight 175, one of the passengers, I got to forget his name, he made 2 phone calls to his father, and they were 15 minutes apart from each other. And the first call, he obviously said, "Yeah, we've been taken over by hijackers and whatnot." And then the second time he called, this is about 2 minutes before it struck the South Tower. He told his dad that, he says, "I don't know where we're going, but they're talking about going into Chicago. So we think they're going to make us hit a building in Chicago." Now he completely had lost, track of where he was flying at because it went off course, obviously. But my thing is that, yeah, I tend to believe those 2 flights may have been later destined to hit Chicago, and they already had these other planes destined to hit the Twin Towers first. Or maybe they were going to join, and maybe there were going to be multiple planes hit the Twin Towers. But my point is, and especially with my film, is that the point that I make is, yeah, at the inside job, yeah, there was an inside job with Boston Logan. There was inside work, there was inside access, done at the airport, and that basically the 9/11 attacks, were going to be bigger than what they actually were. It was going to be worse than what they already were. I'm glad it didn't get as bad, but it was still bad enough, to at least put me here. But yeah, that's been my general premise. And also within the Boston Logan film, I also addressed the dancing Israelis and urban moving systems, which I know a lot of you people already know about. Because ironically, there was an urban moving systems van seen in Boston, right outside of Boston, by 12 noon, and there were Middle Eastern passengers driving it. Now, I have no idea why it was out there. I could speculate a lot. I do speculate some things with the film, but it had happened around the time already. With the report of the known urban moving systems vehicle that we know happened in New Jersey with Doric Towers, with the apartment, Maria. We know all the whole story there, right? There was another van out there, so why was this going on? I do not know. It is suspicious. Were they Middle Eastern passengers? Were they Arab Jews? I do not know. I tend to think it was Middle Eastern passengers, but there is even reason to believe, and this is based on the FBI reports on the not just urban moving systems, but on other Israeli-owned moving companies. Some of these moving companies had some of the terrorists or some of the suspected terrorists working for them. So this, obviously I'm pointing guilt with them too, with Israeli intelligence, Mossad, and we all know the rest of the spy ring, Amdocs, the art students, these were all in major cities, where all these hubs, where all these terrorist attacks were going to be, carried out from as well. I mean, even in Atlanta, Georgia, it was going to be most targeted too, especially with Delta Airlines. The Delta headquarters is there in Georgia itself, and some of the moving companies were really there were there was big operations going on there as well. So yeah, that's pretty much my premise with basically covering the Boston Logan film. And I've been wanting to reach this group because I've been told the Boston group is kind of split. I've heard that there is a Republican group and then there's a Democrat group. It's what I've been told by some people from the area. I want to just be able to reach, both. And one of the great researchers I do really respect out there was Daniel Hopsicker, and I really think that what he did was a great service because he covered his area, with Florida, the flight schools, all that stuff going on. But I really wish there would have been somebody like him, for Massachusetts, for the Boston area, to go over all these things, to go over, to document, to track the footsteps, find out why we don't have all the information that what happened. Now, the thing is that some of you people will think, well, this just fits the official story. Well, no, it doesn't. Nothing of what I've said fits the official story, because you also got to realize, I mean, we got into the Iraq War. This is not linked. If you have a big operation with this many people involved, you wouldn't be able to make a mistake of framing Iraq. You had it been, you were able to do that because you had the administration limited the number. We had it down to just 18 people and one person in jail, which was Zacharias Moussaoui. You had a larger operation. This is going to be more multinational. It's not going to, you were not going to get that mistake of just blaming Iraq. And then the other thing is that if the hijackers, if the hijackings were only able to be successful because of having, full access of the airports and all that, why the hell do we have the TSA? Why do we, why were all these restrictions put on us? Because in all honesty, because they did not use box cutters. That was concocted basically after the with the Pentagon attack, with basically from Barbara Olson and Ted Olson, when Ted Olson said that Barbara said they were using plastic type knives. Then it morphed into being box cutters. They did not use box cutters. They were able to bring guns. They were able to bring mace, bombs in some cases, multitude of weapons, large knives, stuff that would have been easy to do, to have picked up through passenger, screening. So, so yeah, all the fault basically was placed on the passenger screening security. Basically they were at fault when the real security issue was the internal security. And we can only hope that, yeah, they fixed those things over the years, although I don't think so, because I've seen still, a lot of, crazy things have happened at the airports. You got some, a few years ago, you had some teenagers sneak into an airport in Seattle and got on the plane, never flew a plane, and took off and did loops in the air and all that stuff. And he just backed the whole plane up and stuff. So, I don't know if we've got all our internal security tightened, but basically, we put all that blame on on the passenger screeners, and that may have been the case. And one of my other film on Dulles Airport, which is called 6 on 77, one of the workers for God, I forget the name. Get the name of the company. It's in my head. I can't remember it. But there was one of the gentlemen. He's Pakistani. He saw 5 Middle Eastern men, and 2 of them he recognized as 9/11 hijackers a day before 9/11. Basically pretending to be like employees, getting access to where the planes are parked. So that's where I stand on that, on it. And basically that, yeah, that's the kind of, elaborate operation it was. And, it's like, what all happened, and, what kind of investigation did we have? We really didn't have one, on everything, basically, even when you look at of course, we know what we know that in regards to what happened at Ground Zero, but we didn't get one as far as even the hijacker cells and all this huge dragnet that had 7,000 FBI agents out there. So, I guess I'm just going to leave it at that. And, I just hope you guys, the questions I get are, from people who have seen my film already, and at least that one. And that's it. I want to keep it short. So,
Yeah, that was short.
yeah.
But packed. I'm gonna add my spotlight here, if I can. Yeah, I can't seem to do that. All right. It's right over here. No, replace, not replace, add. Anyway, here we go. So as far as the passengers go, what do you know about the passenger manifest? Were they listed?
They were listed. I mean, but the thing is that you mean the hijackers listed?
Yes.
Um, that was a whole other problem because they didn't put that passenger manifest until September 15th. Why did it take him so many days to do this?
Right.
I mean, if they board just as passengers, they'd automatically be on it. But uh some of them, if they boarded as, airline pilots or even as, stewardesses or whatnot, they're not going to appear as passengers on the flight manifest. So, that's the reason why I believe that's why it was delayed. Some of them, and I pointed this out because there's on the manifest, they also have a seat number and passenger number. Ata didn't have a passenger number, and then Alamari didn't have a seat number or passenger number. Same thing happens with Flight 77. Hani Hanjour did not have a seat number or passenger number. Also, one of the other ones, Nawaf Al Hazmi, he didn't have a seat number or didn't have a passenger number. And then, like, the big thing was United Airlines. They took forever. They didn't give no details for like 2 or 3 days. They didn't list no seat numbers or passenger numbers. So yeah, they delayed all that for, we'll put it to you this way. At first, they said there was 18 hijackers. On September 13th, they said it was 18 hijackers. By September 14th, then they raised it to 19 hijackers. The hijacker that was missing was Hani Hanjour. But the thing is with that is like what I say with Flight 77, there was other hijackers on there. I'm not necessarily believe that he was the pilot, but I do think that there was another one involved that was.
I'm going to open it up to questions. So everybody, raise their hands if you've got a question. And I see Mike is raising his hand, but quickly, I just wanted to ask you to put a link for that 6-hour video in the chat, because I think some people would like to take a look at that,
Okay.
at least in pieces. So Mike, you raised your physical hand rather than your electronic hand, so go ahead.
I can't raise my electronic hand. It's not an option down here, but I'll be real quick. I made some notes. Alex Jones, what do you think about him now? I know you said you were into him for quite a while.
Oh, I think he's a traitorous bastard. I'm sorry to say that, but I think that man has done unbelievable damage as far as even the genre of conspiracy theories itself. Yeah. I believe me. I used to be. I listened to him for 4 years straight. I even like probably 1 year. I listened to him every day. I called in on the show at least 3 times. But what started to do it for me, to be honest with you, is him ignoring the Israeli role, not taking it serious. It was certain things like he was also with the Ron Paul thing. I started noticing it. He was like, it is a lot. Yeah.
I agree. I don't believe he started out wrong, but I think he was probably given an offer he couldn't refuse. He took the fall financially, but he stayed up above ground, and I have sympathy for the man. But I think he started out 100%. He was on not Kansas City. That's the Super Bowl. Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
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 He was on that right away. Another question. Oh, well, my big thing with him was the whole Sandy Hook deal,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I was hearing it on the major media. Where is your deposition? Okay. Now, normally, I'm sorry, not deposition, discovery.
Yeah.
Normally in a legal case, you do discovery before you do anything else, and then the court can decide whether or not it even wants to hear this, right?
Mhm.
And the Sandy Hook evidence was overwhelming that the official story was wrong, something's up, and he never released it. As far as I know, I've looked for it. I've never been able to find it. Pilots for 9/11 Truth. Are you familiar with them?
Mhm.
Okay, and the alleged cell phone calls. You're aware of that bullshit?
Well, no, I don't believe they're alleged, and that's only on Flight 93.
Well, yeah, there was the
I've
Pentagon and more to that, but
no, there was no cell phone calls on Flight 77.
you
There were
can't make
there were two air phone calls. You know that?
air phones you can do, but
Mhm.
not cell phones.
Well, yeah, but there was never a report of cell phone calls being made on Flight 77.
Well, there was initially. Maybe they changed their story. I don't know.
No, they have the rosters, the numbers for that's already been shown. Those calls did go through. I can tell you this: you're talking about Barbara Olson's call, which
Right.
they had first thought that she called from the cell phone, or that I think Ted had said that, but no. She had called. There's the AT&T operator that called, and they interviewed the AT&T operator. And what she told the AT&T operator, which is not known publicly, it's in documents. She told them that the hijackers took over the planes with knives and guns, and
Okay.
yet we're supposed to believe box cutters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is all new information to
Well,
me.
oh, let me tell you something else. You brought up the Oklahoma City bombing.
Yes.
You know who Hussein al Husseini is, right?
Those guys with their names, I don't keep them real straight.
John Doe number two. You know Jana Davis's book?
I know I've heard of John Doe number two. I've
Yeah,
watched A Noble Lie.
yeah, yeah. You've
Yeah.
seen that. That's Hussein al Husseini, the Iraqi, right? You know where he worked at after he left Oklahoma?
Uh-uh.
Boston Logan Airport. He was working there all the way up until September 11th.
Well.
Yeah, for catering planes with his brothers.
Another thing that came up, trying to be brief here, I had never heard of the Seattle Loops.
Yeah, that was that kid that he took over a plane. That was that. There's cameras, there's video of all that. Was
What
that
kind of
was like, well, I mean, he
I'll,
may have been 20, he may have been like 21 years old. I may have been wrong on him being a teenager.
I will look it up. I'm not
Yeah.
going to take up everybody's time, but I had never heard of that.
Oh God,
You can't just jump in one of those planes and fly them. All right,
he did.
it's not a bicycle.
I know,
Allegedly, he did, but
but he crashed the plane and died.
Also, what
Yeah,
about the 7,000 FBI agents on these
yeah,
guys on the
yeah. It
alleged?
was the largest. It was the largest investigation the FBI ever did. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to. Well, be sure to post your stuff. I haven't watched it yet. I
Okay.
see there. We got that video, and thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for the questions.
Okay, next we have Jean and Sandra.
Yeah, it's me actually. I don't know if Gene has any.
Okay, go ahead, Sandra.
Yeah, I don't know if it's questions or comments. I'm just kind of like baffled by a few things. Have you been on planes? Have you
Mhm.
flown?
Yeah, I've flown. I flew to New York for the 8-year anniversary. I
Okay.
landed at JFK Airport. I've been on the planes when I was in the Army.
Okay.
That's the first time I flew when I was 18 years old.
Okay. Okay.
When I went to yeah.
Asking. I've flown 200 times more or less, and it's a very tight community. The whole the pilots, the stewardesses, they all know each other very well. They're like a little family. They board like where all the passengers board. If you're saying that one of them dressed up as a pilot, I don't know where he would have gone, like into the cargo area where the suitcases are. If he'd gotten on the plane, he would have immediately been recognized as not being one of them. That to me is just really.
There's a thing that you're right about the tight knit thing, but they also do a thing called dead revenue. Pilots can and this was even reported with ATA on another flight out of the Maryland, and I've talked to other pilots that talked about this too. Uh, you can, if you're a pilot and you need to take off, to do another route somewhere else, you can basically get on ride a plane and ride on the cockpit and ride on the jump seat. And Atta was known for having done this on a Delta flight, and it was even enlisted to do this months before on a plane out of oh my God, what I'm sorry, I'm forgetting, out of New Hampshire. No, not New Hampshire. I'm sorry, Maine. He had done that before, so there is a way to get around that. Yeah.
Yes, to get around it, but it seems like a big risk when you really have to make that one plane that day with whatever weapons you have and be able. Anyways, it's like too many eggs in one basket.
Well, they also get the pilots get into the cockpit before anybody else does anyway.
Contrary, they get on last. They get on last. I mean, last. They get on like right in the like when everybody's in the waiting area and they're just about to call the flight. Then at the last minute, the pilots and the stewardesses arrive. They put them in, and then they call the passengers. But it's not way before everybody else. Definitely, they don't have time alone there. Then about the flight paths, I find it perfectly logical that the planes would have taken off normally and then suddenly been detoured, whether it's by remote control or whatever reason, and then just gone on a different path. So that's not weird to me.
Well, the official story says that they were taken over 15, 20 minutes after they had departed, assuming that they were already on the right flight path. They're never on the right flight path at all.
You're saying they were on the right flight path?
They were on the wrong flight path the entire time. They were not supposed to. They were not supposed to cut through the state of Massachusetts. They were supposed to go northward, going through New Hampshire, Vermont, and basically New York, upstate New York, all the way across. That's the main air system basically for planes going across the continent.
Well, that was just something that came up. It's just not like the biggest thing. The other thing is like whether there was 5 or 6 or 7 hijackers. I'm really not sure what that changes.
Changed the official story.
Yeah,
but it says the government's lying.
Why? Because there was 5 instead of 7 or 6.
Yeah.
What
were they from Iraq?
No, well, they're not a game changer. And why Iraq anyway? How does that fit into their story? I mean, Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11.
Oh, I know, that's my point. But you want to know where the nationalities were they're going to,
So would they have wanted to have Iraqis on there if they wanted to blame Iraq?
Oh, if you want to flame Iraq, sure.
And the fact that none of them were on the manifests, I mean, that tells me a lot that they had to like put them there after the fact.
Yeah, they didn't identify all of them. They weren't able to identify all of them.
But if they were on the manifest, they would have just been there.
Yeah, exactly. They weren't on the manifest, and they weren't instantly on the manifest.
Yeah, nothing about that adds up to me. It's just all really, really bizarre. I mean, the fact that, except for one security camera that caught Muhammad Atta, and
but it's not even at Logan. That's at Portland, Maine. Yeah.
Right. So all the more reason.
Yeah, and it's only 2 of them. Well, that's the whole thing. Why did they go over there? If you even go, whether you go into disbelief that there were hijackings, why would they do that? Why would they go all the way there?
Why would who do what?
Why would Mohammed Atta and Abdelaziz Al-Amari take off from Logan the day before 9/11 in a rental car to be 2 hours out of their way, through 2 or 3 hours out of their way, then to fly back to the Boston Logan and catch the plane last minute?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm look, there's a lot of things that I don't.
Well, I can give you an answer why. They went up there to rendezvous with more operatives that were crossing in from Canada. Some of them had come over from God, what's the name of the island? God, I'm really bad. I'm getting really bad. I got to start watching my stuff more. Haven't watched it in years. No, but there were others that came in last minute from Canada.
Okay. I mean, I'm not.
Nova Scotia. Some came from Nova Scotia. Yeah.
Okay.
Through a ferry boat.
Okay. I mean, I'm not gonna argue with you on that because I have no idea. I mean, it's not some. I'm just based on what you had said. It's just nothing about it makes sense to me or resonates or helps even explain anything.
Well, that means, well, if they were bringing in these other operatives, these guys weren't part of the official planes. They may have been part of another team to do other planes, to do other airports.
Okay.
So,
And what those they just failed. They just got intercepted. They got.
yeah, no, they may have ran into problems at the airports themselves. One case is that they did. One case is that one plane was targeted, but there were 30 Marines on the plane, and that they probably just, passed on it.
Okay.
Others probably couldn't get in because of certain things from their, through screening and stuff.
Okay. So
Some operatives cowered it out. Some would show up, maybe two of them, but the rest of the other team didn't show up.
okay. I mean, it's not impossible. But even there, statistically speaking, if there were all of these planes targeting all of these places, it's kind of ironic that the ones that did work out were the towers,
Mhm.
Pentagon, and well, I guess the third one didn't really work out. We still don't know where that one was going.
Yeah.
But the three main ones.
Yeah. Well,
ones that-
definitely New York. I mean, they wanted the Twin Towers done again. That was for sure. I mean, that's, but then by what I'm alluding, if there is, like what I'm saying with the two planes from Logan, if they weren't initially destined to be there, they would have had to have some kind of central command. If you're thinking of of the hijackings being conventional, to basically say, turn around, don't go to Sears, don't go to wherever, hit the Twin Towers instead. Then that means that there would have been some other kind of ground communication. It's a larger operation, a little bit more sophisticated humanly.
Okay. And the possibility that they were just simply patsies who were told to be on that plane on that day, and the planes got taken over. That's just not that's zero possibility.
Patsy's infers it's like that's what Oswald was. Oswald wasn't supposed to get caught. These guys were doing it. They were doing it, and to let the public know that we're executing this crime. So it's actually not. Yeah, it's not the right terminology for it.
Okay, well, I guess we can argue over terminology, but I mean, Oswald, wasn't he the one who got nailed? I mean, he's the one who paid
He
the penalty.
did, yeah, but he wasn't. He got set up, yeah.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
but if you're alluding that these guys are carrying out this mission, they're not. They're not getting set up. They're willfully doing it. They're willfully carrying it out.
Or they're being set up, or they were just told, you're part
No,
of the
they know it. Well, they could be setting up to the point that they may have not known it was a suicide mission, that maybe only the pilots may have been in. There is that theory because some of the letters left by some of the hijackers didn't indicate that they were doing a martyrdom operation, that they were, that they thought that they were just going to get arrested, that they were going to do a regular conventional hijacking and ask for demands and stuff like that. So there could be that possibility, but it's kind of when they're dead, it's kind of hard to place them as a patsy.
Okay. All right.
I just had a real quick question. Of all the research you've done, what state actors do you think ultimately carried this out, if you don't mind sharing?
Well, I'm going to say Saudi Arabia, obviously, and I'm going to say, there's obviously Israel's involved in this. But I'm not. I can't really say others. I mean, like I can't say Egypt. You know what I mean? But I can see the possibility of others in Egyptian government, but using Sudan mostly because Sudan would have been much more a point, and then obviously Pakistan. That's obvious. Yeah.
U.S. at all?
I used to believe that, but I don't anymore. No.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, let's go to Jack Bottomley.
What's that?
Jack Bottomley has a question.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have several points. One is that the mainstream media, you're foolish to uh, rely on the mainstream media because they were completely taken over by that time.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you broke up a bit.
Okay, mainstream media was completely taken over by 9/11 before 9/11 happened.
How do you mean
And
that?
it was bought up, and it was bought up by a certain group, and the CIA was paying a lot of the actual reporters in mainstream media. It was completely taken over. It's not even legitimate at all. Um, the second thing is that if the U.S. government wasn't involved, who shut off all the cameras at the Pentagon and at Boston and other places? That the other governments would not be able to go into the Pentagon and somehow
Um,
sabotage the 40 cameras that were aimed at that place with the plane or missile
well,
hit.
the Pentagon was going through renovation already, so they didn't have all those cameras working. You had the gate cameras working, so you already captured that. That's already captured. What other cameras you were saying like everything is but
They
your
even
point
took
was
they even took the
no, but
cameras
you were
off the
saying something about
motel.
but you were
They
saying
took
something about
the FBI took the cameras off the motel, and we've never seen those pictures,
they've
those
released them.
videos.
Yes, they have, but they don't capture anything. From the
Well,
DoubleTree Hotel, they're released. Wayne Coste is nodding his head, and I know Wayne's done all this very extensively. You can talk to Wayne about that.
then the plane in Seattle that was crashed wasn't crashed by teenagers. It was crashed by a senior mechanic who every day he started the planes up, he warmed up the engines, and he taxied the planes from the where they were at to the mechanics bay where they were working on them. The plane would come in and land, passengers would get off,
Uh-huh.
he would get in and taxi it into where they were repairing the planes. So he every day he taxied planes. All he had to do was take off. He was a senior mechanic, not a teenager.
Well, then that's the different story. I think you're talking. I think I've
No,
heard about.
that's the same story. Did the loop de loop and all
Oh,
that, and then he
okay.
crashed.
No, it
Same
was a
story.
seat. No, he wasn't an old guy. He wasn't. He didn't.
He was a senior mechanic. That's a title.
Oh, senior. How old was he though?
I don't know how old he was, but his title was senior mechanic. He drove those planes when there were no pilots in them, no passengers in them.
You sure about that?
I'm 100% sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll have to take a look. I have to check it out again because yeah, I forgot about that. I mean, I remember it, but I mean, I don't recall the guy having that much experience. So yeah, okay. Well, maybe you're right.
So we go on to
Okay.
the question.
Yeah.
Are you done, Jack?
Yeah, I'm done. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Craig, you're next.
Yeah, hi. A few things strike me. One thing I just want to start off with is what evidence do you have that any of the alleged hijackers ever even boarded any of the planes? I mean,
Dulles
actually got off.
Airport, security video from
Pardon?
Dulles Airport, passenger phone calls.
Yeah, but the video, the security video doesn't show them boarding, and there's no like boarding past
It's
it. That
from September 11th. You've never
right,
researched
but
this stuff, Craig. I know your position on all of this. I think everybody here does.
so so
You're just going to
what
repeat
is
the
that?
same things. You're just going to repeat the same things. There's
Well,
security
that's
video
to
from
me.
Dulles Airport that even has the Flight 77 passengers next to the hijackers.
Okay, how do you know they actually boarded any of the planes though?
They did because they crashed.
You know,
Because they crashed.
okay, it sounds to me like you don't have any evidence that they got on the planes. That's that.
What you? I don't think you have evidence for denying that they didn't. So,
Well, I don't think that I need to necessarily. I think
well,
you're the one alleging that they hijacked the planes. So I
mhm.
think I think if I mean Elias Davidson did focused on this in one of his books quite extensively. The fact that there's no even paper trail that says that they actually got on.
Has he taken it to court? Is he planning to do anything with it?
Away,
to
so
prosecute somebody?
He wrote a book about it, so that's
A lot of people write books.
Okay, well, a lot of people.
I'm working on a book too. I mean,
good for you. Okay, but I'm talking about evidence, so I'm just asking about evidence. So okay, so maybe you can tell me this: How do you know that the planes were actually hijacked by people, by human beings, as opposed to being remote controlled or something? How do you know that they were actually hijacked?
well, like I said, there's the security videos, and then there's also the phone calls.
Okay, so it rests on the phone calls then.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, it's at the phone calls. It's it's the reports. It's the people from the working at the airports. It's all that. Now,
Why do you think
what? Go ahead.
I'm just going to say, well, why do you think there was such confusion about the names? Why do you think there were? I mean, Hani Hanjour wasn't even when they released a preliminary list of people on Flight 77. He wasn't on there. There was another name, and then they later took that name off and put Hani Hanjour on there. And I think it was Flight 11. I could be wrong here.
No, Flight 77. It's Flight 77.
No,
the name was Moser Kanad. It was a CNN misreport. Right. Yeah.
Right. And with one of the other flights, there were like four Arab names that were initially released and then later replaced with four different Arab names. So
it wasn't replaced. There is one that was reported to be alive, but the misspelling is completely different. The guy lived in Florida, and that was for Khalid Al-Madar.
Okay, but there's one of them where four names were changed after the. So I'm not sure which.
I don't think it's 4 names. There's only one that I know, and then they also tried to say that. Oh yeah, Salim Al-Hazmi, which was another guy from Saudi Arabia that worked for an oil company. He was alive, yeah, but it's not the same one because we got him on video. We got him in there. Now, does that mean that that's the only teams? I mean, that was the only people involved? No, I believe what the stewardess, my God, I'm forgetting her name right now. What she said on her phone when she called her parents. She said there were 6 hijackers. And the security video, when the security video was released the day before the 9/11 Commission report, July 21st, 2004, they showed an extra Middle Eastern suspect boarding, and they were saying that was Hani Hanjour. This was CNN and Fox News that showed this person. And these images have been completely forgotten. You can find them, through archives and stuff. I have them. I have the news reports. I put it on my film. But well, I will just say this. This is not included. Daniel Hopsicker, one of his interviews, he did say he spoke to an individual, not sure it was within the investigation. He didn't believe Hanjour piloted either, but he had said that it was some other guy, and the guy was a Saudi Air Force pilot that flew Flight 77. Now, I don't know if that's true. I tend to believe that it's probably true that he was told that, but would they cover up such a thing like that? Yeah, I mean, look how friendly we are. Look how much the Saudis have been protected. They've been totally protected with this whole crime, so they still are. You only get one thing covering. CBS is only covering right now the whole situation with the hijackers entering San Diego and LAX. There's the dry run with the Omar Bayoumi that worked for the Saudi consulate.
Why do you think, though, if these people actually were hijackers, why do you think there would need to be such confusion about the names? Why wouldn't they just have names that go on the manifest and then
because they use different identities,
the names come out.
They use different identities. They also are able, since they're Arabic, they can spell them out differently too.
Why would names completely change? Where would
It's because they were
where
covering up their own trail so they weren't tracked. That's why they moved in. That's why they lived in different places. They had multiple places to live at. It was just part of it, just like an intelligence operation. That's how they
yeah, but I'm
operate.
talking about the flights themselves. Like, why would there be a different name on the flight manifest, and then how would it get replaced with a new name? Once it seemed something went wrong with the first name, then they magically came up with new names.
No, they didn't change names. They attributed certain names to the wrong identities. There's at least 3 of them on Flight 11 that they had done that, and then 1 on Flight 93, and then also 2 on Flight 77. The names are different. The only time is there's names missing. There's a point where Honjor's missing. I think there was more on Flight 77. There's only 5 of them mentioned, but there may have been 2 others that have been on there. I think there was 12 people. I think there was 12 people involved within the 2 planes out of Boston Logan.
So who's Mosier Canad or Canade?
I don't know. I don't know how CNN got that. CNN was, and it's not on the verbal report. It's only written on the written transcript of the report. I have the actual video report, but it doesn't say the newscaster doesn't say Moser Kanad.
It just, I'll just finish with this because I don't want to take too long, but it just seems like that all of this stuff smacks of deception, and it seems like it's not just it would have to involve more than just these alleged hijackers to be pulling all these things with names, and people, like a person, a name gets released and then later on it disappears, like this Mosier guy.
Look, when they announced Mohammed Atta, they had said that he was another guy that had done a bus bombing in Israel in the late 80s, and it wasn't him. The guy that was another guy named Mahmoud Atta, which was older. So why did they get that? I don't know, but they had initially reported that. They reported him as a Palestinian, basically.
It's just they're getting this from somewhere. They're not just.
Could be Israeli intelligence giving the media bullshit.
Right.
They've done it before. They've done it before.
Or even American intelligence.
Well, here's the thing. The Israeli intelligence, they told, they warned, there's one part of the Mossad that did warn our CIA, but they said that they got to worry about, they gave 20 names. And out of those 20 names, only 4 of them ended up turning out to be hijackers. They didn't obviously talk about the hundreds of other suspects that were involved. They gave a very, very minimal number. And of course, they weren't talking about their Mossad assets tracking the hijackers, giving aid or anything else they may have been doing. Obviously, the FBI thought they were involved.
Okay, so I said a minute ago, last thing, and I'm going to do one more little quick one. You mentioned about Portland, Maine, Atta going to Portland, Maine. That never made any sense to me anyway, regardless of what reason. To me, there would be no reason. If he's supposed to get on that flight, why would you go to Portland, Maine?
Exactly.
Under any circumstances?
There's no point.
Okay, but where do you get the fact that he was meeting up with people coming across from Canada? Like,
there's reports. There were reports. There are even cab drivers from. He went back to Portland, Maine. He was not only there just on September 10th. He was there 2 weeks even prior with one of the other hijackers. It wasn't even Abdelaziz Al-Amari. There are 3 cab drivers that all been interviewed in Bangor, Maine, and all attributed to picking up these people. One woman specifically remembered Atta specifically, and Atta was saying some nasty things to her. And she even named the restaurants they went to. But each time they'd gone there, they were picking up, rendezvousing with people coming in from Canada. Some of them were coming in from Halifax, and some were coming in through the border through I forget which area. I don't know that state. I've never been there. But there was 2 other road entries that came in through Canada.
Okay, I'll stop there and let somebody else get in.
Sure.
Yeah. Next we have Phil Restino, but I just have a quick question.
Go ahead.
I don't remember his name. His first name, possibly his last name, Robin. The air traffic controller at Logan on 9/11.
Robin Horton.
Bell?
No, I don't. I don't know the
Robin
names.
Horton.
What is it?
Horton.
Horton, Hordon.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Important. So be interesting to have you speak with him. I don't know how to get in touch with him anymore.
Oh, if you guys know, yeah, well, there you go. Talk to him. If you know somebody from Boston Logan, yeah, they might be able to give you
He's
some
out in
things.
Seattle.
He's out
Oh,
in Seattle now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So anybody, yeah. If anybody has contact for Robin Horton, that would be really, really valuable. Okay. So, are you still here?
Who?
Phil Restino, he had his hand raised. Did we lose Phil?
Yes. Hi.
There
Hi.
you are.
I came in late and I apologize. I missed your name as well.
Hi, Nelson.
Hi.
Nelson.
Oh, you're Nelson. Okay,
Yeah.
it says Thermal Detonator.
Yeah, that's my DJ name. It's my old.
Okay.
I still keep it. You know.
Great, thanks. You may have covered this already, and but I recall uh, some reports of the two planes coming out of Boston and landing in Newburgh, New York, at that former Air Force base there, and that would be the ideal place to switch planes to drones and head to New York down the Hudson
Yeah.
from there. Do you know anything about that? And
I've heard all those theories. I've heard about the same theories from like Rebecca Roth and all that. I don't believe in any hoaxes. I don't believe 9/11 to be a hoax. I don't believe there's any hoaxes involved at all. You know,
when you say hoax, what do you mean as far as what I just said?
Basically that it wasn't the authentic planes that struck that their targets. The idea that it wasn't the authentic planes that struck their targets.
Oh, so the idea of drones switching to
Drones, missiles, CGI, all the
Well,
no plane theories. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty damn good flying and to hit those towers. Okay, well, you answered my question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Next we have Mike Biga.
Yeah. And sorry, Nelson, I'm not too familiar with your work. There seems to be a lot of just kind of, flat out assertions you're making. And I just was wondering, do you have a link to some of the best evidence to support some of these additional hijackers or, the different weapons?
Well, yeah, the two films you'd have to watch is the Boston Logan Inside Job, Boston Logan 9/11, and mainly the Bojinka Maximum. That's the 6-hour one. I did post that in there. I can post the Boston film in there, but those are the two films. And if I don't cover that in Flight 77, I could even. Oh, I kind of alert. No, I didn't cover that. No, I didn't. That's all in Boston Logan. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, and do you actually have hard links to the additional hijackers? I mean, I think there might be some different cutouts that were made. In my opinion, I do not believe there were hijackers, and I'm glad you know about Ada and you've seen Hopsikers, I think is his name.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to piece together. You don't think the U.S. government, at least, is a lead suspect for you, but you do think Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Israel.
Well, look, I mean, could members of the CIA allowed it to happen? Sure. They didn't alert the FBI when some of the hijackers came in. I don't think the FBI is telling all the truth with all that. I think they were tracking more of the hijackers than the ones that we've been leaked out to tell. One of the ones that I've known that I've heard reports on or seen some testimony on is Ziad Jarrah from Flight 93. The FBI were watching him, and he was going to a flight school, and he's not even you don't hear any reports of that at all. It's usually Khalid al-Madar, the one that did the USS Cole bombing.
Okay. Yep. And then with Ada. Okay, he spoke Hebrew, he drank, he probably did drugs.
I covered that.
Pink-haired stripper, right.
Covered all that.
So you do think he was an Islamic fundamentalist, a suicide hijacker?
I don't think he was. I think he was gay.
Okay,
No,
so
I don't think. No, I did make a film about this last anniversary about the idea of him in it because there's a lot of reason to believe that. Do I think he was an Islamic fundament? No. Well, I think he was an Arab terrorist. Yes.
okay, but he was suicidal, and I believe he had a kid. I mean, I think
Yeah.
part of the
He
backstory
hated.
was that he liked the Beastie Boys, ironically.
He liked the Beastie Boys. Yeah. Yeah. He smoked
Yes,
pot.
because
He did. Yeah. Yeah.
yep. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. It
But there's
seems
it's
quite.
made up about him too. There's things that they say that he had kids. That's not true. Some other reports tried to say that he had that he had a daughter.
No,
They tried to say even
yeah,
the daughter married one of Bin Laden's sons. That's not true.
I don't think any of it's true. I mean, I think he was Israeli intelligence, and that was putting
Well,
together a backstory. And what we do have is the firsthand reporting. Everything else, I mean, I can't even tell you the inconsistencies and stories that have changed from the U.S. government.
I wouldn't say he
But
was an agent, but I could say that what his associations, he was tied into to groups that were assets of Israel, but not him directly. People who fund, especially with Syrian Muslim Brotherhood, a lot of them, especially when you look at what's going on now in the news, with Syria and all that, Syrian Muslim Brotherhood
yep.
has been a big asset to the Israeli intelligence. That's obvious. That's ISIS.
I believe.
That's ISIS. You know, we already know that. So it's not about getting the individual, operatives. You got to just get the leaders under control. That's it. So,
Okay. Sure. I think the evidence is very sparse for even who they put forward, and I'm sure there may be other ones that they didn't actually end up using in these official manifests.
I'll tell you this right
not
now.
quite clear.
Like Ziad Jarrah, Ziad Jarrah, the one that was on Flight 93. I don't think he was on that plane. There were only 3 hijackers on that plane. Ziad Jarrah had cousins that were Mossad spies. You know
Okay,
that?
yeah. I mean, I would say a lot of this is opaque because clearly we have a lot of intelligence ops going on, and I would
the reason
that,
why. Here's the reason why. I'll tell you why that I don't believe Ziad Jarrah was on Flight 93. All 5 of the phone calls made off of Flight 93 all said that there were only 3 hijackers. They had knives, they had a bomb, and they were all dark skinned. Ziad Jarrah is a light complected, looks more Persian. He's Lebanese. The other 3 were Saudis.
Yeah.
So
I think we can use voice morphing technology, or we have
but
people who are complicit with it. So I don't really, but I have listened to all the transcripts, and we have some weird things with whether calls were connected or not.
But if it's going to be fake, then get your crisis actors to get the line straight. If it's supposed to be 4 hijackers, then all 5 people calling should be saying there's 4 hijackers. They don't.
No,
they say
I think
3.
when you do, let me just assert something here that I think most of us who have looked at false flag operations know through history, right? They tend to have a lot of these red herrings and different things, so you're questioning other aspects of it. But apparently it convinced you. I mean, apparently you have the evidence, and you think you're 100% convinced. So as far as getting the story straight, part of one of these ops is to have confusion. We have open debate. We have open debate about what happened at the Pentagon. So I mean,
you don't need. But this is too wide. This is too big of a day, a big event. There were so many things going on. You can't control that many things, and then cover up and bury all these other operatives that were going to be involved, and then put them in jail for INS violations, and then ship them home. That's what happened. All the people that were arrested after 9/11, there were 700 people. They all eventually went home. We all eventually.
But believe me,
they didn't go to Gitmo. They didn't go to Gitmo. We went and just grabbed people in Afghanistan and Gitmo. We didn't grab anybody from Europe that was involved and threw them in Gitmo. All the Western countries, no. We went to war in Afghanistan, grabbed all these people who have no knowledge of hijackings and knowledge of urban terrorism. You don't go to Afghanistan to go learn hijackings. That's all done in Western countries. So
Yep. So but you do believe there was a controlled demolition in New York City. I just want to make sure.
I believe that there were explosives in the Twin Towers. Yes.
Okay. And then, so they happen to only hit 3 of their targets, but you do think they wired WTC-7 in the Twins for demolition, correct? Or no? I mean,
Building 7, I used to believe it was a demolition. I don't anymore. There's a lot of reasons why. I take too much time, and it pisses a lot of people off when I tell them that. But no, I understand why people believe it is, but I don't think it was. If it was going to be targeted, it should have been brought down much earlier. It should have been part of the attack. I just have a problem with, well, I have a lot of problems with a lot of the claims made about it.
Okay, so if they were going to hijack, why would they even? First of all, there's a huge issue with security for them to actually get access to the Twin Towers. Also, I'm a little confused with the different state actors that you have in also kind of exonerating the United States as playing a role. But
do you know about
okay,
do you know about Danco Mechanical?
Not sure. No, I mean, is this related
Danco
to
Mechanical
access elevators?
Yes, not to the elevators. They were doing upgrades and stuff to certain
Fireproofing
offices.
Yeah.
They were a team of Arabs and from different countries, and they were working for a company that didn't even have a legit address. The address was an apartment. It was owned by a guy named David Denko. I have a whole article about it, but they also had control of the water, the fire water system and all that. So the fact that somebody could get in like that, because you had to go through the Port Authority to get okayed in the first place to do work on the Twin Towers. But the fact that some kind of companies could be like that and do that, what does that tell you? I mean, I know about the elevator theories. I mean, there's a lot of that. Yeah, I know.
Whether fireproofing upgrades or the tenants now. And there's a lot of things that went on in the background with regard to, bank transactions and whatnot. So I guess actually in some, now that we've talked a little bit more, I guess I'm trying to understand, you pretty much believe the official story.
No, I don't. Is Israel the official story? Is the Mossad the official story?
Well,
there's multiple hijackers, the official story. Is using knives, guns, and bombs the official story?
Well,
no, it's not.
The weapon.
19 hijackers, 4 planes, and box cutters. That's the official story.
Okay, I don't think anyone would be upset if they didn't realize or didn't know, aside from some phone calls, which they are there in the transcripts, apparently, according to you, right? Which, who knows? They may have stated they had a gun. They may have stated they had a bomb. If there was even a hijacker, which I contend
there's no point for the confusion. There's no point for the confusions. If you're gonna make it, if you're gonna make a hoax to set a certain narrative, you do that. You just stick.
So wait. Wait. High level, though, I guess.
So all these different things are just for us to exist and argue for it. No,
wait. No, I'm actually trying to understand. Really, the high level view is for you. There's Islamic fundamentalists, suicide hijackers.
No, I wouldn't call them Islamic fundamentalists. Because Islam is supposed to be peace. That's what it means. So these people were acting out. Yeah, there is terrorism going on in the Arab world before Islamic terrorism, and they were due suicide missions.
Oh, okay. There also wasn't much of a link. As far as even what these hijackers wanted. First of all, they're kind of in the air. They're kind of intelligence ops, and I think U.S. and Mossad are key, but. All right, so I guess I don't know. I'm not familiar enough with your work, but I guess I mean, we can't deny that Israel had tie-ins. I think they were obviously extensive.
Oh yeah, so do I.
So we have what we have. We have what we have there.
Well, okay. Do you know about any Mossad roles involved in the 1993 the first attack? Do you know of any?
No, but I do know about the man who.
I do.
Oh, I'm sure.
You don't hear nobody talk about it, but you don't hear anybody talk about it. You just hear people repeat. Alex Jones of the FBI did it. That's all people were.
I just know about the guy who provided the bombs, who was an FBI informant and recorded his phone calls, right?
Do you know of any Mossad assets involved in the Oklahoma City bombing?
Nope.
I do.
I don't look deeply into every other. Okay.
I do.
Yep. Okay.
Wow.
So all right. So I then I guess high level. Let's just say it's hijackers, some bombs in the building, and also Mossad is working with these people. Even though they are diametrically opposed.
Yeah, you got to remember.
It doesn't really seem to be cohesive.
Some of these, you got to remember that some of these Islamic fundamentalists, or whatever you want to call it, they also hate the leaders of other Arab countries. They want to see them overthrown. So they don't have an issue necessarily if they're doing something that's going to be in favor or support or overlaps with Israel's motives or agendas.
Oh, at the state level. Yes, the Saudi government is very corrupt. They would play a bit part.
Bin Laden hated Saddam. All those who were involved, even in the 1993 bombing, they all hated Saddam. They're glad that what happened, despite that it's destroyed the Middle East and all that.
no, I think some of the corrupt Saudis were looking for Iran to be targeted, just like
Yeah.
Israel was, which may be occurring in the next weeks
Yeah,
or months.
well,
But
Saudi Arabia had been an enemy of Iraq since the first Gulf War. That's why they let all our troops come in there.
Yep. No, I understand their issue with Iraq, and then more so the Shia.
They didn't like Libya. They didn't like Gaddafi. They don't like Assad.
Oh, sorry, I gotta let other people talk. But
I'll let you go.
I guess, yeah. But it'd be good to have, if you do have a link to new evidence that supports some of these claims, that would be helpful, as opposed to watching YouTube, which is not very sourced.
I'm going to link my film from the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. That's very, very lengthy. I'll send it in there. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry. And next person, I'm sorry for taking all the time.
Thank you, Mike. So next we have Wayne Costa.
What's going on, Wayne? Oh, no, David Schlesinger.
No,
or is it Wayne?
So Wayne's
Yeah,
next.
That's Wayne, yeah.
hello. So, wait a second, Dave. So at any rate, Nelson, I just wanted to say thanks for showing up. I actually want to throw you a bone here, and talk about some of the physical evidence for actual physical hijackers on the plane, and specifically Flight 77.
Mhm.
And it's I've been after some conversations with some of the folks on the call here, I got involved in actually looking at the FDR data myself. I don't like to just take people's word for it. I like to look at the data, and I want to say that if you look at statistics, like how volatile is the flight, how erratic are they moving the controls and things like that. If you compare anytime that's under remote control, whether it's internal under the flight management system, or if you want to hypothesize some sort of other external system, there's going to be a nice smooth control system to make sure everything works nice and according to a plan. If you actually look at the periods in which the flight management computers are turned off, there's a huge volatility in plane going up, going down, the control panel, the steering wheel, kind of like Mario Andretti trying to actually someone on Grand Theft Auto trying to get down the street or something like that. But it's when you look at that, the planes are actually irrefutably under manual control during certain periods and into the crash. So, and I'd like to give this presentation to the Boston group sometime in the future. And the only argument I can say is the flight data recorder is not true. It's not real. But if you look at the last second that Warren Stutt was able to get and decode, you can actually see the impact into the generator trailer, the rotation, the right wing getting lifted up, the whole entire plane seeing a little bit of a vertical acceleration as the right wing gets pushed. You can actually see the dynamics in the last couple of seconds. So, and this is not part of the official story because that wasn't released. It took Warren Stutt to dig into this. So, it's very, very strongly, in my opinion, supports the authenticity of it, which supports the hijackers that you've talked about at 77. And I know this was supposed to be about Boston.
Yeah.
It is.
It's part of the whole transit. It's part of like my whole thing of covering the airports. Yeah.
Right. So I don't have anything else. I just wanted to let you know that that supports your contention more than just the phone calls and the
witness evidence. I'm classic witness evidence, like like JFK and the grassy knoll. I mean, we didn't have all the scientific stuff at first, but you had all the witness evidence. The witnesses that saw there was an extra shooter. So yeah. That's why yeah. But you're right. There is a technical way. There is a technical way to go about it too. Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about witness testimony because CIT has many reliable witnesses, unless they're all operatives lying to us, that definitively place the flight path north of Sitco. So I guess
they all saw the plane crash into the building, and there's about 11 different north of the Sitco paths. One of them that goes directly over the gas station too.
Yep. There's also a guy who was on the river who noted a path quite clearly, but We won't get into that now. We don't want to get into the Pentagon now, but I'm just saying, yeah, I do. I do take witness testimony seriously, especially when it corroborates.
Yeah,
there's a lot of
but
it.
you also have 130 of some that saw it going the normal route, and then these 11 that aren't even the same route. They're supposedly within one area. You know, one of them said that the plane was blue or silver. Yeah, and these questions were asked. You know, this was asked years afterwards. They weren't like, it wasn't like fresh right after the incident. So, you got people that say they saw a black plane. You got people who say,
we can table that. I don't want to derail it onto the Pentagon because obviously a lot of us don't.
Okay, thanks, Nelson.
Hey, thanks.
So next we have David Schlesinger.
Yeah, thanks so much. To me, the most important issue involving 9/11 is activists should be trying to prevent tyranny in this country. And if the U.S. didn't do 9/11, then I'm confused about how there can be a USA Patriot Act all ready to roll out.
There was already one designed. I mean, they already were pushing those ideas already after the Oklahoma City bombing.
And so, but the U.S. did the Oklahoma City bombing, but that they didn't do 9/11.
Well, I don't even think that I don't believe that the U.S. was behind OKC either.
And even though Jamie Gorelick managed the security aspects afterwards from D.C. and then is on the 9/11 commission, that's not suspicious.
No, I mean, suspicious as far as what? What does that prove?
It just shows that the U.S. government is making sure things turn out the way they want it to turn out.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, look what happened with the Warren Commission. They put Alan Dulles on there, and that was one of John F. Kennedy's enemies.
Right.
He fired him. Yeah, I know. And look, they used people from the Iran Contra scandal, involved with the 9/11 Commission report too. Yeah.
And so Atta is a party guy, but he did suicide on purpose? I'm confused.
Yeah. He hated. Yeah.
Why did he do suicide?
Well, he was sexually repressed. That's one thing. Yeah. No, I mean he hated the U.S. and he hated the West. Was it completely like an Islamic thing? I think it was more of a hatred thing than anything else.
And to me, the reason why World Trade Center 7, besides the physical reasons why the U.S. was involved, is that Poppy Bush had marshaled financing to buy oil and gas properties in the former Soviet Union on 9/11/91, and needed to have access to changing the procedures on 9/11/01 is why World Trade Center 7 was made sure it came down.
Yeah, I know. That's what you believe. That's fine.
Well, you don't think there's anything to that?
No.
But you also don't think the U.S. was involved in World Trade Center 7?
No. Well, exactly.
Talk about that, please.
Well, I mean, that's just like the discussion I've had with you before about it. Just like, for example, Jerome Howard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, why isn't Jerome Howard the main? Why isn't Jerome Howard the main suspect for World Trade Center 7?
I don't know. I'm not saying he's not. Why
shouldn't he be? But why shouldn't he be?
All I said about Howard is that he said that Cheney and him did not get along, and it was claimed
he he gave the Cipro. There's the theory he gave the Cipro warning of for the anthrax attacks. He was the head of Kroll, right? He was one of the first people on TV saying that the Twin Towers came down from fires, right?
I'm confused what you're saying now.
Jerome Howard. I'm talking about Jerome Howard.
Okay.
He used to be the head of the offices of emergency management inside
Right.
Building 7, right? Now what?
Yes, before
why
yes.
is he not your suspect for the World Trade Center 7?
He might be. All I'm saying
No,
is that
no,
you
and
told
that's
me personally.
no. You told
All
me
I'm
something
saying,
specific. You told me
all
years
I'm
ago.
yes.
And what
All
did
I'm,
because you met Jerome Hauer, right? And what
yeah.
did he tell you?
He told me that he and Cheney were not friends and did not get along.
And he also said he thought World Trade Center 7 was a controlled demolition.
No, he actually said
No,
that.
you told me. No, you said that. I've got you even saying that.
Okay,
yes.
He's open to the Twin Towers being controlled demolition. No, he's open.
No,
to
he's
World
not.
Trade
No,
Center.
the Twin Towers. He thinks there was. The Twin Towers. He thought there was still brought down by fires and the plane impacts. But the World Trade Center 7,
that is
the
what
one that
said.
he should be the most highest suspect for, turns out that he thought, oh, it was a demolition.
Yeah, he did say that to me.
Okay, thank you. Now, just for the record, I used to believe when I believed that it was a demolition. Jerome Hauer was my prime suspect at one point.
Mm-hmm. I do want to compliment this whole session for being as civil as it has been. Compliments to Sue and all of you. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Next we have Joshua.
Hi, Nelson.
Hey.
I remember from your videos you mentioned unsafe at any altitude, and it's Frank Argenbright, who formerly owned the Argenbright Securities. He was scapegoated.
Yes.
After 9/11.
Yes. And Bush and not is it Marvin Bush or no, it is Marvin Bush, right?
Yes.
That was under his company. That was under his holdings company. They went under.
Yeah, I believe they purchased it.
Yeah,
from
they went
Argenbright.
under because of that. Yeah. Because thank you.
Yes. And I had a question. For example, with Muhammad Atta, rather than him being a passenger and breaking into the cockpit and hijacking it, if he had, let's say, a uniform and was in the cockpit, how is he able to bypass airport security to do that pre 9/11? And how do any maybe other Al-Qaeda type
he must have
operatives
had credentials. He must have had credentials because he was doing this at other airports. He had to have had something. There's even a theory out there that they said that he actually worked for American Airlines. That that might have been, could be, but he had these guys made. Yeah, they operated like an intelligence group. An intelligence operation. They could pose as that very well, apparently. And yeah, there are Arabs that work, Middle Eastern people that work in the airlines industry. We see that still today, and, these people, he may have gone on as doing as dead revenue, and they allowed him on the plane. He signed up for it ahead of time already. And then 9/11 happened, we can only guess, how that happened, how he took off, but there's a lot of, you remember the Jesse Ventura episode. Remember when Jesse Ventura did 9/11? I don't know if you've seen that, but
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, he did that, and he spoke to one of the ground zero workers who saw the black box, one of the black boxes get discovered. And he said he knew two other people that saw two others. So there was at least three. But incidentally, he also knew an American Airlines person from the flight tower. And they had told him that the hijackers were already in the cockpit when they took off. So Malone is his last name. Malone, I forget his first name. Yeah, was his last. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll take one more question. Are you all set, Joshua? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Craig, you have another question? Go ahead.
Yeah, if I have just a moment, I appreciate that. A couple of things, just a couple of quick comments. I did find the paragraph from I wrote an article about the hijackers years and years ago, and I quoted Jay Kolar, who wrote an article that was in the book The Hidden History of 9/11, and so I'm quoting him, and he refers to the original list of the original government hijacker list, and for Flight 11, it said, I'll just quote Kolar. He says, "A little known fact is that besides the name of Muhammad Atta, it contained 4 names from the Flight 11 manifest, which the FBI dropped and replaced with 4 other Arab names." He says, are we then to believe there were at least 9 Arab names on Flight 11 to choose from, and 4 of the FBI's 5 choices were wrong?
But I'd like to see that. But I'd like to see. But what was the document from? I'd like to see it.
Yeah, well, I'd have to look at his detailed article. That was just the thing I quoted from it. So I don't know what document he was using for that, but I just wondered if
does he have a note thing for it? Is there notes of it in the end of the book for it?
I'm not looking at his original. I've got footnotes here to his article, so I wouldn't be able to do it quickly enough to, I could sort of find it. I've got the book, but it would take too long. But anyway, I do want to mention, you mentioned about 130 people seeing the official flight path. I think that's false. There are certainly people who will say and did say that they saw the plane hit the building. And I think a lot of those people believe it hit the building. I'm sure many of them did think that. But it's incorrect to say that 130 people witnessed I think you said the normal flight path, and I think same thing as official flight path, I assume. So 100, yeah. I mean, I'm just wanting to be clear about that. So, but there were not 130 people who described the official flight path.
Well, I've talked to people who've seen it.
I'm not aware of hardly any that did.
I've talked to people who have seen it. So,
like who would that include?
People who basically, like somebody whose mom was driving on the freeway next to the Pentagon and saw it flying over.
Right. It's interesting though that nobody has actually described the flight path, other than I think one Keith Wheelhouse.
There's a lot of them. You can look at Adam Fitzgerald and his channel, and he's got even a lot of the interviews from the people from the Pentagon. There are people who saw it do the entire round thing and come down. Heard the engines revving up when it was coming straight towards. Yeah.
Right, but not 130 people. You don't have 130 people. That
was 120. What difference does it make?
Well, because you made it sound. I mean, 130. You wouldn't say 130 unless you were trying to.
Craig, you believe the light pole was planted in the taxi cab? You believe the light pole was planted in the taxi cab, in Lloyd England's taxi cab?
Well, I don't believe any pole was in Lloyd England's taxi cab.
Well, there was something certainly on the road. Something certainly did that damage.
Something did the damage.
Did you ever meet Craig Ranke in person?
Yes.
Oh, in person, really? And what did he say? What was his argument about the security video, the one that from the gate cameras? What was his excuse? What was his answer to it? What did he say it was?
You mean the one from the parking
cameras? Yeah, the 2 gate cameras.
Well, I'm not sure if he specifically mentioned that when I met him. We didn't talk about every.
I asked him about it.
Okay.
You know what he said? It was fake.
Tell me.
He said it was fake.
No, I think he's probably right about that. But
yeah.
I'll throw it back to you. Are you aware of Xander Arena's research on that footage?
Xander Arena's some newbie. He's kind of irrelevant.
I don't think he's irrelevant.
He's just repeating your guys' CIT narrative.
No, I don't think so. I think if you look at his presentation, you'll see that he measures the length of that what is supposed to be the plane, and it's too short to be a 757.
No.
So something is not adding up.
Look. You won't even say Thierry Mission's wrong. You won't even admit to that.
What wrong about what?
Thierry Mission. He was wrong, wasn't he?
About what? Specifically?
About what happened at the Pentagon.
Well, but like Give me a fact, and I'll tell you if he's wrong about it.
Do you not know who Thierry Mission is?
I do. Yes, I do.
What is he
But I'm
known
not
for in
gonna give you a
9/11?
blanket- I'm not going to give you a blanket. He was wrong. If you tell me,
But yeah, according to you, he's wrong. Because
okay, but about what
loose
though?
change supports the Thierry Mission narrative. CIT is anti-loose change. Craig Ranke made that very clear to me.
Okay.
So it's just a competing theory. But but CIT does, none of that exists without Thierry Mission.
Well, I don't think that matters. I mean, CIT can have
It does matter.
regardless
Who
of what
invented the
makes up.
denial of the Pentagon attack? What was the reason for denying the Pentagon attack?
Situation.
Because it's anomalous looking crash site. It's a small hole. But
Right.
according to Craig, it's not. Oh, the size is all there, but it's done with explosives.
Oh, I don't
And
think
the
he
plane
ever
flew
said.
over.
I don't think he ever said that the size is.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, it's on interviews, it's in articles. He doesn't deny that there's no anomaly with the size. He just says that it's all made with explosives. He's also told me how the light poles came down too. Did he tell you how those came down?
No.
The 5 light poles?
No.
He said there were explosives on the bottom of the light poles.
Where does he say that?
He
Point
told
me
it
to
to
where he said
me
that,
when I
please.
went to his apartment in 2009. 2000.
Yeah, I would question that. I would challenge
That's
you
what
on
he
that. I don't
told
think he
me,
said that.
and I bought his
Well-
DVDs. I bought a whole stack of them, was going to distribute it for We Are Change LA, and I felt like an idiot after I bought them.
Well, that's okay. I'm sorry you feel like an idiot, but I think that it's very clear that the light poles were not hit by Flight 77. They were
hit
just
by
placed there and brought in, and I think they were just placed there in advance. That's what I think. I don't know what Craig,
Right. I'm sorry, dude. Sorry, bro. And it's like anybody can just watch the debates you've done over and over again with David Chandler,
Keep
you
it
know.
simple.
So
Keep it
Yeah, and I think Gene noted. I just wanted to note. I just talked with Xander. He's been around for years and worked with AE under verifications. Has just been a diligent and a researcher. He's worked on many angles. I'm not even familiar with every angle he has worked on. So I'm just saying.
I've only heard of him the last 4 or 5 years. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
how long has
so,
9/11? How
doesn't
long has
mean
this
anything.
movement been around now? What?
have you
17
heard of
years?
me?
What's that?
By the way, though, I just want to say this. I don't want this to be petty. I haven't heard of you. Have you heard of me, Mike Figa? No.
You? No.
And I
No,
just
yeah, well, I did rethink 9/11. What I'm going to say is I wouldn't slander someone like Xander who's done diligent work, and I have to say I do not know you, and I do have serious issues with
That's
kind
fine.
of what seems like hot air. But
Yeah,
but that's
I know.
that's it.
That's fine.
But
Guys,
sounds good. I'll let other people.
Xander Arena just had a
I'm
video.
good.
Anybody-
I'm good, Sue.
go ahead.
Too many people, too many voices.
Real quick, Redacted, Xander Arena just had an interview with Clayton Morris from Redacted. It just dropped 3 minutes ago, so he's a pretty intelligent guy, but all good.
I don't even know who that is.
Okay. Thank you.
On that note, I think we're going to wrap this up. Thank you, Nelson.
Thank you.
Real quick, just because we all are the 9/11 Truth Movement. Nelson, you've seen what Kurt Weldon's been doing lately, right?
Yeah, I have, but I wouldn't trust him because remember what he did with Anthony Schaefer and the whole thing with Abel Danger.
Yes.
He at first said that, Atta, I saw Atta for sure on the Abel Danger program. And then later on he said, no, I didn't see it. Yeah, Kurt Weldon did that. So watch what you're dealing with. Watch who you're dealing with. Yeah.
Send me something, please.
Yeah, it's on Wikipedia even. Just look up Abel Danger on Wikipedia. It mentions it.
Yeah, I know that, but he's always said, and he still sticks to this day, that Otto was involved. I mean, he just yelled it literally 3 days ago.
No, did he?
Oh yeah, he still thinks Otto had something.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying that Atta being on the Able Danger program and being that they were tracking him before 9/11,
yeah.
he denied that.
No, he does
denied
not.
that later on.
100%.
It's on. You can take a look.
Well, Wikipedia's fine, but I heard it from his mouth.
Well,
and you
he's
guys.
still ready.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. He's saying he's involved, but I'm talking specifically about Able Danger.
Yeah,
he backed out. He backed out from defending Anthony Schaefer. That's what I'm saying.
I'll show you. literally, come on, everybody. Like,
Yeah, we've all heard it.
there's at least 5 interviews in the past 3 weeks where he's still supporting Anthony Schaefer wholeheartedly.
And he wrote books.
Very,
Yeah.
Oh, is he?
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
okay.
Well, thank you. This has been very lively. And I just want to thank you very much. I also meant to say when I was asking you a question, just to point out, because you said that Boston 9/11 Truth is Republicans and Democrats were even more
Camps?
diverse.
Yeah, split in 2 camps. Is that true?
No, not at all.
Really?
Several camps, not just 2.
Oh.
Not
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay.
We've got independents, we've got libertarians, we've got Green Party, we have anarchists.
No, but I was told that
all together.
no,
go ahead.
all together in one group. Okay, because I was told
Yeah.
that there was like
Yeah,
2
but as
separate
far
groups. They
as-
were meeting independently. Ones were very,
got a lot of stuff, but we're together on investigating 9/11, and
Oh,
that's
okay.
what I think. That's the whole premise for Boston.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Who told you that?
somebody was pretty prominent. I forgot. It was somebody pretty prominent in the truth movement.
Right. So on that note, I always forget to do my general disclaimer at the beginning. I'm going to do it at the end. Boston 9/11 Truth has guest speakers every other Thursday. The opinions of our speakers is not necessarily the opinions of our group, because we have varied opinions anyway. And so I keep forgetting to do my general disclaimer at the beginning. So I'm doing it at the end. And we meet again on February 20th, where Joseph Olson will be our guest speaker. Thank you again very much, Nelson and Josh.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for turning us on to him. And I think this is going to be get a lot of hits on our Rumble channel.
Oh, good. Cool.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Now for those